Hi, I'm Daniel from Image Salon, and this is Editing Deconstructed. Every week we take a different image and show you some behind the scenes in Lightroom and Photoshop to get the best out of your editing. So here we have Tammy O in front of a window. It was shot during their day after session. The first thing we're going to do is adjust our exposure and white balance to get things in the right territory. So we're going to warm things up and make them a little less green by pushing our tint into the pinks. Give it just a base contrast, pull our highlights, push our shadows, pull our whites, and pull our blacks for some contrast. Texture we're not going to touch. Give it just a little +5 or 10 on clarity, +10 on dehaze, and -5 on vibrance to keep those skin tones under control. In our curves, we're going to push our highlights up and pull our shadows down for a little added contrast. Our sharpening standard values are set to 80 and noise reduction to 20. In the HSL adjustments, we're just going to lower the orange saturation to -5 and make the oranges slightly more pink so the skin tone is more where it should be. One thing that we like to add is a little bit of split toning, just a +10 on the highlights and a +5 on shadows with 30 hue on both. Just gives it a little bit of that creamy warmth that we really like on the images. Lens correction is turned on and all of the other settings are left at 0. Once we've done all of that, we're going to make some final tweaks to our exposure and we're going to be ready to open the image in Photoshop. We're going to open it as a smart object. And what that's going to allow us to do is to bring in a second version of the same raw file and mask any parts of the image. So what we want to do is bring the raw file back into Camera Raw as a smart object, give it a little bit more exposure for O, the groom, which now makes the bright a little bit too bright. And so we could have done that easily as a brush in Camera Raw or Lightroom, but we're going to go ahead and do it as its own layer. So now on our brighter layer, we're going to brush in the parts that we want to make a little bit brighter. And so that's the groom, the corner with his hand. And the general idea is to really even things out so that our eye as a viewer goes to both the bride and the groom. Once we're happy with those two layers, we're going to bring them together, duplicate into a copy layer so that we can start doing our retouching. So we're going to start by simply spot healing any kind of imperfections in the skin. Anything that stands out to us that should disappear, we're going to click them away. This is sped up, by the way, so this is a little bit faster than real time, but in total we'll spend about 1 to 2 minutes on those. Once we're happy with all of the spot removal that we've done, we're going to create a blank layer and use that layer to fill in or even out some of the skin tone where it might be a little bit uneven. To do that, we simply select one of the skin tones that's near the area that we want to smooth out a little bit. And then at a very low opacity or very low flow, 10%, we're going to brush in the different areas. Now it might look a little bit unnatural at first, but we're going to blend it in. We're going to add some grain to it so that things blend in nicely. So here where we see the highlights and midtones vary on the bride's face, we're using a very big, very soft, subtle brush. Same thing on the nose, just pass it real quick. We're not trying to get rid of those highlights completely, but we just want them to blend in with the other tones a little bit better. So the areas that we usually look at are really the forehead, the nose, the eye creases, and under the eyes and nose. And same thing on the groom. Now, once we're happy with what we've done, we're going to turn the layer on and off just to kind of get a better sense of what that looks like. And it's indeed a little bit strong. So we're going to reduce the opacity to 80% so it's not quite as much. The final step here is going to be to go under Filter, Noise, and Add Noise. And the reason why we want to do that is because we want to add some of the grain on the brushing that we've completed so that it blends in better with the natural texture of the photo as it was captured. Now it's going to be really hard to see, but a little 2 or 3% is typically sufficient and will really give us that grain that we're losing from the brush. Things might look a little bit flat, so let's pull up the tone curve. make our whites a little bit brighter and our blacks a little bit darker. And that gives us that nice contrast that we want in the image. Hit OK and save it. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Editing Deconstructed.